Okay, so I got two Raspberry Pis here. One on the left is replacement. This one is marked to the bad one. That's the one that was sent over from eBay. This one's from pi-model.com. This one, I've tested it, it works. And it's also the same, supposed to be the same model Raspberry Pi. You can see here that it is a Raspberry Pi 0W v1.1. It's got the 2017 date stamp on it, and I've just plugged in the micro USB to the USB port. I've got a SD card in here that I'm going to attempt to use to demonstrate how the replacement works differently from the bad one. So the micro SD card has an image of Raspbian Stretch Lite, which is supposed to work for the Raspberry Pi 0W. It makes it boot up normally on this one versus not really at all on this one. It's a stock image, there's nothing changed between these, and I'm going to use that to show that the bad one is indeed the bad one, because you'll see that the light doesn't light up amongst other things. So I've just put the SD card in. I'm going to plug this into the USB port on my laptop now, and it's going to start. The activity light started flashing, which indicates that the device is booting up. Normally, it's reading from the SD card, and I have SSH installed as a default on there, so I can attempt to SSH into the Raspberry Pi. And there we go. Okay, so I didn't clear the I didn't refresh the SSH file, so actually it refused my connection, but that means that the Raspberry Pi recognized that there was a network there, and it tried to register its host name as raspberrypi.local, and the fact that it says SSH connect to host port 22 refuse means that it acknowledged that there was a host there in the first place, which means that it's on my network. So that definitely works. You can see the activity light is still on, but yeah, I'm just gonna unplug it now. And then what I can do is I can use the same micro USB cable and the SD card to test out what I've marked as the bad one. So the bad one is the one that I'm submitting for a return. So I'm just plugging this in now. So you see it's the same micro USB cable and the same SD card. So if it worked in one, and if there were no hardware faults, then it should work in this one. But as I've tested before, this one is the one that the factory had not programmed correctly, and so I was unable to get anything other than the regular Raspberry Pi Zero, not the W version, working on this board, and there was no way I could get the wireless to work. So I'm going to plug this in now. So now that I've plugged it in, you can see that there's no activity light going on. Even though the Raspberry Pi is functioning, it's not recognizing it as a Raspberry Pi Zero. So it thinks it's a Raspberry Pi B revision 2. And this means that the pins for the activity light are registered differently on that model versus this one, which should have started flashing by now. This is the exact same USB cable and micro SD card, as you can see from the other one. So we know that these combinations of other hardware that I put with it are supposed to be working. So I'm going to try and SSH into this Raspberry Pi. And let's see here. Yeah, so I was able to SSH into it. However, as you can see, there's only two network interfaces that the kernel and the firmware recognized. One of them is LO, which is the local Ethernet, and then there's another one called USB 0, which is the Ethernet gadget. As you can see, there's no WLAN 0, which should have been there. And if I run the command to figure out what the kernel thinks this board is, it's going to tell me that it's a Raspberry Pi Model B. So I'm just blowing that up. So it thinks it's a Raspberry Pi Model B Rev 2, which is definitely incorrect. This is the exact same fault that I logged with the return order, and this is why I need to have it sent back, because a Raspberry Pi Zero without the wireless is basically next to useless for the purposes I purchased it for. Thanks.